Hey guys, it's June, the beginning of June, so it's time for what I read this month. And these two piles are what I've read this month. And I'm just going to go through them and talk about my thoughts about them. So I did pretty well reading this month in that I read like over 20 volumes. That's pretty good for me because I figure there's probably about 20 volumes that come out every month that I would buy like new, so at least I'm keeping up with the pace, even though I have so many I still need to read. So first we have The Devil and Her Love Song. I read volumes 2, 3, and 4 of this. I have mixed feelings about this series so far. I will say I think that the difficulty level of this plot is very high. It's basically about a girl named Maria or Maria. I'm not sure which pronunciation they meant, but she's from a Catholic school, which makes me always want to say Maria. Like I almost have this thing where they wanted to call it A Problem Like Maria or something, because she came from a Catholic school and she was expelled, and she always wears this kind of gothic cross, and she likes to sing. That's mostly what we know about her. Also, she's kind of known as a devil because she's very blunt and she has a way of offending people just by kind of immediately kind of calling them out on their personality traits. And people don't really like that very much. And all these characters in her new school are supposed to like not really like her. So she's on this journey to learn how to be liked. I don't know where it's going long term, but at this point she's kind of trying to figure out, do I want to be liked? How do I become popular? She meets a couple of people at her school who actually do kind of like her. So there's this blonde guy, and I'm trying to remember his name. It would be nice if they would tell me on the back, but there's two guys. One of them's like the broody guy, and the other one's like the sweet guy. And the sweet guy gives her like this weird advice to like do a lovely spin where she kind of like turns and is supposed to look cute and then say something friendly. And they really make a lot of this lovely spin thing. It's kind of annoying, honestly. But I will commend Miyoshi Tomori for trying a really difficult plot. It's very hard to write a heroine who is supposed to be unlikable and then try to make the audience like her, but also convincingly show why some people wouldn't like her. That's really hard. Like, that's like at least a 9 out of 10 in difficult main characters to do. You know, the characters are cute. It's not boring or anything. I'm working my way through it. I just my favorite parts are probably when she's really struggling to figure out, like, she's hurt by how people don't like her, and she kind of realizes, like, I'm just not a person people like, because I think everyone's had that feeling at some point when you're just kind of in the wrong group, especially, you know, if you're kind of a manga nerd, you've probably been like in an awkward social situation where you're like, I'm the weird nerd, no one likes me. So in that regard, I like it. I'm going to keep reading it. I don't know if it's a keeper series, but it's like a 7. So that's where I am with that. Then Everyone's Getting Married. This is a story it's a josei series. I always like to support josei because not many of them are released. It's by Izumu Miyazono, and it's a shoujo beat title. I'm kind of in the middle of it. As you can see, I read 5, 6, and 7 this month. Everyone's Getting Married is cute. I really like the art. It's very pretty. The characters they look nice. And it has a good pace to it, but I'm not super connected to anyone in the story. And it has kind of an annoying plot that is one of my least favorite kind of plots, where there's this guy. Well, for starters, the main character wants to get married and be a homemaker, but she also is like a real career woman. She's very successful at her career. And she falls in love with this they call him like Nana Ryu, but I can't remember what his actual name is because it gets confusing. Ryu Nanami. he's a newscaster and he's kind of a celebrity, so their relationship's kind of on the down low, so people don't gossip about it. Then there's this other guy who kind of keeps taking advantage of the situation. He's one of her coworkers, and he keeps hitting on her, like, in ways that are just creepy and off-putting to me, and she kind of puts up with it more than I would like. So I don't love that part of it. This is another one where, like, I'll finish it, but I don't know if I'll keep it. But I still want to support josei. Yay, please bring me more, even if I don't love all of it. Oop, knock the camera. Then we have The Betrayal Knows My Name by Hotaru Odagiri. Again, press title. They started releasing it in double size and then they went to single size. As you can see, I'm missing volumes 3 and 4, so you might wonder, how did you read them if you don't have 3 and 4? Well, I didn't. I read volume 1 and then I read most of volume 2. And I realized I was extremely confused. So I give up. These are just in the pile, like, I'm moving on with them. So they're kind of in the pile, but not really read. The problem with this series, it has, like, the art is so pretty. I really wanted to like it. It seems like it's kind of a boys' love series. But it has a lot of characters. And when they have fun moments together, it's really fun. Look how pretty this art is. The covers are very nice in that, like, gothic-y kind of way. So I wanted to like the series, but the problem is there's so many guys that are blonde and they all get introduced kind of at once and none of them stand out enough to me. They're not introduced separately enough. For one thing, I'm like, I can't keep them apart. I'm sorry. I'm stupid sometimes. Then there's, like, this intense backstory. I don't know if this one has it. Volume 1 has this very long list of terms, like practically a glossary in back, and of all the things you need to know about it, about this world and this plot. One thing I do like is that the two guys were, like, the main character was a woman in a previous life, and now she has been reincarnated as a he, and the more broody guy is still protecting him and drawn to him. And are we going to see the broody? Yeah, this guy still kind of remembers that relationship. I always liked the reincarnation thing, but anyway, just wasn't for me. I'm sorry. Then we have Dawn of the Arcana. As you can see, I read a lot of these. My collection of this really looks bad. Sometimes when you buy used copies, you just get screwed and they send you, like, the worst. I hate these hardcover library laminates. The good thing is that when you get them, as long as you check that it said paperback on the listing, you can just get, like, a complete refund. Most places. eBay, Amazon. So anyway, side rant. But I'm really enjoying this series. Whoops, I'm sorry, I keep knocking the camera. I've been cranking through it. It's really a quick read. That's, like, my biggest complaint, is that I don't want to spoil anything. There's a lot going on, so I don't really want to show you the interiors, but the art is very sparse. It's by Ray Toma, who also did The Bride of the Water God. Is that the one? The Water Dragon's Bride. Oh my god, there's a lot of brides. I'm sorry, I get them confused sometimes. The Water Dragon's Bride. Where is it, God? Oh, well, anyway. And now she's doing The King's Beast. And her art style and her dialogue, it's kind of like the bare minimum you need to know to follow the plot. It's very simple. So it's kind of the opposite of Yona, where in Yona, like, you'll have 3 volumes that kind of cover sort of a side story with different characters, or, like, they're just kind of cooking and talking and nothing really happens, but you're just kind of enjoying the journey. Dawn of the Arcana, or Arcana, I'm not sure, is the opposite of that. It's a very briskly paced, and you don't get to know anything extra about these characters. I wish that you got more, because I really like them. And I like the world, and I like the setup. It's basically a world where there are kind of animalish people, and they are ostracized. There are also people with red and blonde hair, and they are ostracized. And there's two kingdoms. The Japanese really have a thing with red hair. Like, Anne of Green Gables really got into their system, like, on a deep soul level, didn't it? And so there's two kingdoms. The two main characters are from rival kingdoms. And so this girl, this redhead girl, side note, this little kid with, like, the ram horns is so cute. But this girl's the main character, the redhead, and then she's got her guy here, who she's kind of forced into a marriage with, but then, you know, they get along pretty quickly. She also has Loki, her protector, who's kind of like a dog guy. I really like him too. I like all these characters, honestly. That's why I just wish that it was more in depth. That's my only complaint. She has this power to see into the future, and they really... The story really conveys how stressful it would be to see into the future or the past. Like how sad it is kind of to be able to look in the past and see things. And in the future, the stress of like sometimes being able to see two different ways things are going to unfold and having to decide, like, are you going to intervene and in what way? So really dramatic events happen because of that. I would recommend it, but only if you've already read Yona of the Dawn and Fushigi Yugi Genbu Kaiden, which I think are still better as far as fantasy romance series. Then we have the latest volume of Delicious in Dungeon. I won't say too much about it so I don't spoil anything, except just that I'm loving this series. I love Ryoko Kui's art so much. She is potentially, I'm guessing it's a she because her name ends in Ko. Even though I think this is probably published. And anyway, it seems like very feminine art. Anyway, the way she draws women is just gorgeous. And actually just the way it all looks is gorgeous. I love the characters. It's fun, but there's also an ongoing plot line that I'm curious to know about. I love everything about this manga. Descending Stories, Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju by Haruko Kumata. I'm reading this slowly because it's the opposite of Dawn of the Arcana in that it's pretty packed with stuff to take in as far as what's happening. This is published by Kodansha, and like, bless them for bringing this over. I imagine the pitch meeting for this, that everybody was like, oh, you know, what do you have to bring over for us today? And somebody who loved the series was like, how about a josei series about an old man who does rakugo? And everyone's like, oh, Americans love rakugo. Anyway, rakugo is a Japanese storytelling art where you sit on a mat and you tell an old story that has like this, you know, kind of like storytelling in America. Not that we have a lot of storytellers anymore, but they have the same stories they tell over and over, and so, but everybody has their own spin on it. And that's kind of the art form in Descending Stories. Much like in America, storytelling is not a super hot thing to go see people do. It's kind of an old-fashioned thing to do. So a lot of the story is just kind of about an art form that's sort of dying, and how much do you allow it to evolve? Like, women don't do rakugo. This female character, she's kind of grown up in it and would like to do it, and it is very good at it, but she doesn't because she's a woman. And then we have a younger guy. He's the other main character along with the older man. There's also a character that died whose kind of shadow hangs over the story. And it's like I'd describe it as a family saga about the nature of art and history. It kind of goes into flashbacks into the past where the older man, who's known now, his rakugo name is Yakumo, but he started out as Kikuhiko. And so we get to see back into the past of Hiko, along with the modern, very revered artist, Yakumo. And then the younger guy who's kind of coming up in the Rakugo world. I really recommend this story for a certain kind of person that loves historical stories and in-depth character stories that are kind of quieter. It's definitely not going to be like burning up the bestseller charts, but this is the kind of thing that I love when they release stuff like this. Completely just love. And I read one volume of Osamu Tezuka's Buddha, volume 3. I'm reading this very slowly because usually I read manga before bed to relax, and Buddha is a pretty heavy series. Even though Tezuka has a light touch, there's this like kind of slapstick comedy and delightful little asides. Sometimes a modern joke will get thrown in and make you laugh, but that's kind of to lighten up what is a rather existential story. Obviously, it's about the founding of Buddhism, so what do you expect here? The art, of course, is gorgeous. This is my first time, like, really reading Tezuka. I feel like I have because everyone knows Tezuka, but I realized I've never actually just, like, really read a Tezuka manga. I can see why he's known as the master because it looks amazing. It's very briskly paced despite the heavy material sometimes. It's gripping and has a huge scope. Every volume, it feels like so much happens. I can't believe I've only read volume 3. It feels like I've read like 12 volumes of this already. I definitely recommend it as the classic that it is. But I am reading it slowly, so you're probably going to see like 1 or 2 volumes a month for a few months. And then I'm also catching up on Golden Kamuy. This one really picks up a lot of glare. I've talked about Golden Kamuy a lot recently, but I do just adore it. It's one of my favorites. And I'm just kind of binging a chunk of them. I have up through 20, so this is a decent amount. Well, this is like half of the chunk that I had to binge. Loving it. My only nitpick with Golden Kamuy. My cat is scratching something. I don't know if the camera will pick that up. My only nitpick is there's a lot of kind of like suspicious characters, and they're pretty much all dark-haired men with like weird eyebrows. And at this point, I read it in bits and pieces, and I start to forget their origins and which ones I'm supposed to be the most suspicious of and which ones might be kind of good guys. They're all kind of likable in their goofiness, even when they're sort of evil. So there's that, but I'm not really complaining because it's fun. Alright, so that's what I read in May. And I'd love to know what you've been reading in May and what were your favorites, or if you have any thoughts about anything I've been reading, please drop me a comment, and remember to like and follow if you want to keep up with my manga channel. Thank you so much. Bye!